You think you've won. The project is done. The presentation is over. The deadline is met. You exhale. You relax. You let your guard down. And that's when everything falls apart. Not because you failed to try. Not because you weren't talented enough. But because you stopped paying attention 1 second too soon. This is the invisible killer of your success. The moment between victory and defeat. The gap where most people lose everything they worked for. And there was a group of warriors who understood this better than anyone. Warriors who knew that the most dangerous moment wasn't during the fight. It was after. The samurai called it Zanshin. Remaining mind. Sustained awareness. The art of never letting your focus die. And it's the difference between people who almost succeed and people who actually do. Let me tell you about Marcus. Marcus was a software developer. Smart guy. Talented. He could code faster than most of his team. But he had this problem. This pattern. He'd finish projects at 95% and then somehow, something would go wrong. A bug he missed. A feature that broke. An email he forgot to send. Always something. His manager would ask him, "Did you test this?" And Marcus would say yes. Because in his mind, he had. He'd finished. He'd moved on. His attention was already on the next thing. But he hadn't really finished. He'd just stopped. There's a story from feudal Japan. A young samurai named Tadashi was training under a legendary swordsman. Tadashi was fast. Precise. His strikes were clean. But every time he sparred, his master would land a counterstrike right after Tadashi thought he'd won. Every single time. Frustrated, Tadashi asked, "Master, why do I always lose after I strike? My form is perfect." The master smiled. "Your sword is perfect. But your mind leaves before your body does." That night, the master explained Zanshin. In Japanese martial arts, Zanshin means remaining mind. It's the state of sustained awareness, alertness, and readiness that continues even after the action is complete. When a samurai strikes with his sword, the strike doesn't end when the blade cuts through. The strike ends when the samurai has returned to a position of readiness, assessed the situation, and confirmed the opponent is truly defeated. The sword cuts. But the mind remains. Most warriors would strike and then relax. They'd assume the fight was over. And that assumption would kill them. Because the fight isn't over when you think it is. It's over when it's actually over. Tadashi didn't understand at first. He thought he was being careful. He thought he was paying attention. But attention isn't something you do. It's something you maintain. So the master gave him an exercise. Every morning, Tadashi would draw his sword and perform a single strike. But he couldn't just strike and stop. He had to hold his awareness for 10 full seconds after the strike. Sword raised. Eyes forward. Mind sharp. 10 seconds of nothing but presence. At first, it felt stupid. What's the point of standing there after the strike is done? But after weeks of practice, something shifted. Tadashi began to notice things. The way his balance settled after the strike. The angle of his blade. The tension in his shoulders. Things he'd been blind to because his mind had already moved on. In his next sparring match, Tadashi struck his master. Clean hit. But this time, he didn't relax. He held his stance. Kept his eyes sharp. And when his master attempted the counterstrike, Tadashi saw it coming. For the first time, he was ready. That's Zanshin. It's not about being perfect during the action. It's about staying present after. Now let's go back to Marcus. Marcus kept making the same mistakes. Finishing code and walking away. Sending emails without reading them twice. Closing deals and forgetting to follow up. He wasn't lazy. He was just mentally gone. One day, his manager sat him down. Not to yell. Not to threaten. Just to ask a question. Do you know why you keep missing things? Marcus shrugged. I guess I'm just careless. No, his manager said. You're not careless. You're early. Marcus didn't understand. You finish things in your head before you finish them in reality. You think you're done, so you stop paying attention. But the work isn't done just because you're tired of doing it. That hit Marcus hard. Because it was true. Every time he thought he was finished, he wasn't. He was just bored. His mind had moved on to the next thing, the next distraction, the next dopamine hit. He was a victim of the finish line illusion. The finish line illusion is this. You believe the work is over when the hard part is done. But the hard part isn't the end. It's the middle. The end is the follow-through. The review. The confirmation. The cleanup. The end is Zanshin. Most people sprint to the finish line and then collapse. They think crossing the line is the victory. But in real life, there's no finish line. There's just the next step. And if you're not ready for it, it will destroy you. Marcus started practicing something simple. Every time he finished a task, he forced himself to stay with it for 2 more minutes. Just 2 minutes of review. Checking. Reading. Confirming. Not doing more work. Just staying present. And something incredible happened. The mistake stopped. Not because he got smarter. Not because he tried harder. But because he stopped leaving too early. That's the power of Zanshin. It's not a technique. It's a state of mind. Here's what most people don't understand about focus. They think focus is about intensity. About locking in. About grinding harder. But focus isn't just what you do during the action. It's what you do after. The samurai knew this. That's why Zanshin wasn't just a combat principle. It was a way of life. Let me explain. In Kendo, the Japanese martial art of sword fighting, you don't score a point just by hitting your opponent. You score a point by hitting with proper form, proper spirit, and proper Zanshin. That means even after you strike, you must maintain your posture, your awareness, and your readiness. If you drop your guard, if you celebrate too early, if you assume the point is yours, it doesn't count. The judges won't give it to you. Because the strike isn't complete until your mind is still ready. Think about that. You can do everything right. Perfect execution. Perfect timing. Perfect technique. But if you relax 1 second too soon, it all means nothing. This isn't just about swords. This is about everything. Every conversation you have. Every project you finish. Every goal you chase. The moment you think you're done is the moment you're most vulnerable. Let me tell you about Sarah. Sarah was a sales manager. Top performer. Closed more deals than anyone on her team. But she had this weird problem. Her clients would sign contracts and then ghost her. Or they'd cancel last minute. Or they'd renegotiate terms weeks later. She couldn't figure out why. She was doing everything right. Great pitches. Strong follow-ups. Clear communication. But something was breaking down after the deal closed. One day, her mentor asked her a simple question. What do you do after a client says yes? Sarah thought about it. I send them the contract. I thank them. I move on to the next lead. Her mentor nodded. And how long after they say yes do you stay engaged? Sarah paused. I mean, they already said yes. Why would I keep pushing? And that was the problem. Sarah thought the deal was done when the client said yes. But the deal isn't done when they say yes. It's done when the contract is signed, the payment clears, and the relationship is solidified. Saying yes is just the beginning. But Sarah's attention was already gone. She'd mentally moved on. She stopped being present. And her clients felt it. They felt the shift. The drop in energy. The lack of follow-through. And subconsciously, it made them doubt the decision. Because if Sarah wasn't confident enough to stay engaged, why should they be? This is Zanshin in business. In relationships. In life. You can't just close the deal and walk away. You have to maintain the relationship. Maintain the energy. Maintain the presence. Not because you're trying harder, but because you never stopped trying in the first place. Sarah started doing something different. After a client said yes, she didn't disappear. She stayed present. She checked in. She confirmed details. She made sure everything was clear. Not in a pushy way, just in a present way. And her cancellation rate dropped to almost 0. Because Zanshin isn't about doing more. It's about staying aware longer. Now let's talk about the science behind this. Neuroscientists have studied what happens in your brain when you complete a task. There's a thing called the completion effect. When your brain perceives that a task is finished, it releases dopamine. You feel good. You relax. Your focus dissolves. This is useful for motivation. It rewards you for finishing things. But it's dangerous for execution. Because your brain's definition of finished is not the same as reality's definition of finished. Your brain thinks you're done when the hard part is over. Reality doesn't care about the hard part. Reality cares about the actual result. And the gap between those two definitions is where you fail. That's why people send emails with typos. Why they submit projects with missing files. Why they finish workouts without stretching and get injured. Not because they are lazy, but because their brain already gave them the dopamine hit for finishing. Zanshin is the antidote. It's the practice of keeping your mind engaged even after your brain wants to shut off. Let me give you a modern example. You're in a conversation. Someone is talking to you. You're nodding. You're listening. But the moment you think you understand what they're saying, your mind wanders. You start thinking about your response. You start planning what you'll say next. You stop actually hearing them. And they notice. Maybe they don't say anything, but they feel it. They feel your attention leave. And the connection breaks. This happens in every relationship, every meeting, every interaction. People think listening is about waiting for your turn to talk. But listening is Zanshin. It's staying present even when you think you already know what's coming next. The samurai understood this deeply. There's a famous Zen koan that goes, when walking, walk. When eating, eat. Sounds simple, but it's not. Because most people walk while thinking about where they're going. They eat while watching TV. They work while worrying about tomorrow. They're never actually present for the thing they're doing. And that's why they fail. Not because they didn't try, but because they were already gone before the moment ended. Let me tell you what happened to Tadashi after he learned Zanshin. He didn't just become a better fighter. He became a better craftsman, a better teacher, a better human. Because Zanshin isn't a sword technique. It's a life technique. When he carved wood, he didn't just carve until it looked done. He stayed with the piece, felt the grain, noticed the imperfections, made adjustments. When he taught students, he didn't just demonstrate and walk away. He watched. He stayed present. He noticed what they were missing. When he spoke to people, he didn't plan his response while they were talking. He listened fully, and then he responded. This is what made him a master. Not his skill, his presence. And that's what will make you different too. Because everyone is talented. Everyone is trying. Everyone is working hard. But almost no one is actually present. They're rushing to the next thing, the next distraction, the next dopamine hit. And that's why they keep failing. Not because they're not good enough, but because they leave too soon. Here's the truth no one wants to hear. You don't fail because you're unlucky. You don't fail because the world is against you. You fail because you stop paying attention. Right when it matters most. Right after you think you've won. This is the pattern. This is the cycle. And if you don't break it, it will follow you forever. Let me show you how to break it. Zanshin is not a hack. It's not a trick. It's a practice. And like all practices, it requires intentionality. Here's how you start. First, identify your finish line illusions. These are the moments where you mentally check out before the work is actually done. For Marcus, it was hitting save on his code. For Sarah, it was hearing yes from a client. For Tadashi, it was completing the sword strike. What's yours? Is it sending the email? Finishing the workout? Having the difficult conversation? Find the moment where your brain says, I'm done, and your body wants to move on. That's your danger zone. That's where Zanshin needs to kick in. Second, add a 2-minute rule. After you finish a task, stay with it for 2 more minutes. Don't do more work. Just stay present. If you finished an email, read it again. Check for typos. Confirm the attachment is there. If you finished a project, review it. Look for gaps. Make sure it's actually complete. If you finished a conversation, pause. Reflect. Make sure you truly understood. 2 minutes. That's it. It sounds small, but it's the difference between almost and actually. Third, practice physical Zanshin. The samurai trained their bodies to hold awareness. You can too. Here's a simple exercise. Every time you finish a physical task, closing a door, putting down your phone, finishing a meal, pause for 3 seconds. Don't move. Don't think about the next thing. Just be present with the completion. Feel the door latch. Feel the phone leave your hand. Feel the last bite of food. This trains your nervous system to stay engaged after the action ends. It sounds ridiculous, but it works. Because Zanshin isn't a mental trick. It's a nervous system pattern. And patterns are trained through repetition. Fourth, create environmental reminders. Put a sticky note on your laptop that says, "Did you really finish?" Set a phone reminder that says, "Stay present." Create a visual cue that interrupts your autopilot. Because the problem isn't that you don't know to stay focused. The problem is that you forget. Your brain automates the checkout process. You need to disrupt that automation. Fifth, practice conversational Zanshin. This is the hardest one, but it's the most important. Next time someone is talking to you, don't plan your response. Don't nod along while thinking about something else. Just listen. Fully. until they're completely done. And then pause for 2 seconds before you reply. That pause is Zanshin. It's the space where you confirm you actually heard them. Where you make sure your response is intentional, not automatic. People will feel the difference. They'll feel seen, heard, respected. And that will change every relationship you have. Now let me tell you what happened to Marcus. After 6 months of practicing Zanshin, his manager pulled him aside. "I don't know what you're doing differently," she said. "But keep doing it." Marcus's bug rate dropped by 80%. His projects shipped on time. His code reviews were cleaner. Not because he got smarter. Not because he worked harder. But because he stayed present. And that presence compounded. His reputation changed. His confidence grew. Opportunities opened up. All because he stopped leaving too early. Sarah had a similar transformation. Her client retention rate went from 70% to 95%. She became the go-to person for high-value accounts. Not because she changed her pitch, but because she changed her follow-through. She stayed present after the yes. And her clients felt it. And Tadashi? He became one of the most respected swordsmen in Japan. Not because of his technique, but because of his spirit. His Zanshin was so strong that opponents could feel it. Even after his strike, his presence remained. And that presence was more intimidating than the sword itself. This is what Zanshin does. It doesn't just make you better at tasks. It makes you better at life. Because life isn't about the big moments. It's about the transitions. The moment after the win. The moment after the conversation. The moment after the effort. That's where most people lose. But that's where you'll win. Here's the final truth. You've been failing not because you're not good enough. You've been failing because you think being good enough means you can relax. But the samurai knew better. They knew that the sword doesn't rest until it's back in the sheath. The mind doesn't rest until the opponent is confirmed defeated. The warrior doesn't rest until the battle is truly over. And the battle is never over when you think it is. So here's your challenge. For the next 7 days, practice Zanshin. Every task you complete, stay with it for 2 more minutes. Every conversation you have, pause before responding. Every action you take, feel the completion. Don't just do things. Complete them. Don't just finish. Follow through. Don't just strike. Remain. Because success isn't about how hard you try. It's about how long you stay present. The world is full of people who almost made it. Who almost succeeded. Who almost became great. They had the talent. They had the drive. They had the opportunity. But they left too soon. Don't be one of them. Stay. Stay present. Stay aware. Stay ready. That's Zanshin. That's the samurai secret. And that's how you never let yourself fail again. The sword cuts. But the mind remains.